yesterday we talked about how to determine if something is if two lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither based on their slopes. Today we're going to do something a little different. So this is basically what this says. We're going to be given an equation. We're going to be given a point. We have to come up with another equation that is either parallel or perpendicular to the original. So this is going to be very similar to when we were writing equations of lines and we're given a point and a slope, or given 2 points. The process is going to be very similar, with a little bit of added twist. Right? So if you ever forget what we're doing, that is it. So make sure your phone is okay. Keep in mind that parallel lines have the same slope, and perpendicular lines have negative reciprocal slopes. In each example, it just gets a little bit harder. So this is like the easiest example. If you have to write the equation of a line that goes through some point that is parallel to some equation. So if it's parallel, we know it has to have the same slope. So what we're going to do first is just cross out the y-intercept. You don't need it. It will only confuse you. So try to put it into places it shouldn't be. So cross it out. If it's parallel, the slope has to be the same. So the slope of our new line would be what?
-4.
-4. So now we have our m, we have our x1, we have our y1. We're going to be using our point slope, which I will write again. And now that we have our m, we have our x1, we have our y1, we're going to take all of that and put it into the formula. So y minus 7.
Wait, that formula is to find the y-intercept, right?
At the end, yes. But it's usually for if you have a point and slope. So y minus 7 equals -4 times x. You can either put minus 2 and then change it to a plus, or you can just put plus 2. And then to solve, we distribute and then get rid of the number by 1. 7 plus sides. So our new equation would be y equals -4x minus 1, which is parallel to the original. It has the same slope, different y-intercept, and I'll show you later that it would go through that point. Questions on that process before we do the next one?
So if it doesn't give you the right number, that means you did the equation wrong.
What do you mean when you say the right number?
I mean like the right slope. Like what if it gives you like a -3 or something?
So the slope you do before you do anything else. You figure out that before anything else.
Oh.
But if you don't start off with the right slope, you will get the wrong answer, yes. Okay. For the next one, it is not in slope-intercept form, so we have to solve it, get it back in slope-intercept form by doing what?
Minus x to both sides.
Subtract x on both sides. We have -3y equals -x plus 9. And then
divide -3.
Divide everything by -3. So y equals positive 1/3 x minus 3. This is not the answer to our question. It is just rewriting the original. So just like before, we can cross out this y-intercept. We don't need it. It is again parallel, so the slope of our new line is going to be
1/3.
1/3. I'm just going to write m equals with an arrow. If you want to write it off to the side, that's also fine. So now we have our m, we have our x1, we have our y1, and we're going to do the process we just did. Put those into our equation and solve. So y plus 1, or you put minus 1 and then change it to a plus, equals 1/3 times x minus 3. And the only time you're changing it to a plus is if it were already negative, because you're supposed to be subtracting no matter what.
Is the delta length on this too?
Yes, so the parallel and perpendicular line sets delta math that's due on Friday. Half of it was what we did yesterday, the other half is this. So when we subtract one on both sides, what is our final equation? What would that new equation become? One-third x minus x. This is parallel to the original. It has the same slope, different y-intercept, and it will go through that. Questions so far? Now we're going to switch gears and go into the perpendicular. So the process in general is the same, except we have to find our perpendicular slope before we do anything else. So again, you can cross it the y-intercept, we don't need it. What would the slope be of our new equation if it's perpendicular to this original?
Negative 1/2.
Negative 1/2. And then you have your x1 and your y1. You have to do that first. If you take the slope that's there, put it into your format, into your equation, and then solve with it, and then change it at the end, your y-intercept won't be right. So y minus 3 equals negative 1/2 times x minus 4. And then solve.
Oh, okay.
What is your final equation?
Y equals negative 1.5 x plus 5.
So this one is perpendicular to the original and has a negative reciprocal slope. Yes. Because it's perpendicular. So it has to be a negative reciprocal. And has to be negative. Other questions on that one? Four is like a combination of 3 and 2. We have to not only change the slope after we figure out what it is, we also have to solve the original, get it back to slope intercept line. Alright, so let's solve this first. Subtract 5x on both sides. Divide everything by 3. Again, this is not our answer, just we rewrote the original. Cross out your y-intercept, you don't need it. Our new equation has to be perpendicular to this one. What would our new slope be?
3/5.
Positive 3/5. Again, if you don't do that part, everything else will be wrong. Right, now we can put our slope and our point into our point slope formula. Y minus 1 equals positive 3/5 times x plus 1. Sorry, 5. Distribute and solve. our final equation should be y equals 3/5 x plus 4. And that would be perpendicular to the original and would go through that point. Did you have a question? If I were to multiply this in a calculator, the 5s would cancel.
Okay.
Or it would be 15 over 5, which would be 3. Do we have any questions about how we do this process? When you're ready, go on to the next page and find any questions you want to see you go over, have questions about. You're going to do these on Desmos, and then you'll have a choice of whether you want to do them by hand or by Desmos afterwards. Are there any you want to see, do, go over, have questions about, do together? I'm going to choose 2 of them, 6 and 11, and we'll do those 2 in Desmos. Everyone go grab an iPad. Similar to the process we did before on writing equations, we're going to type in the ordered pair for number 6, 8, 3. You can label it if you so choose. There's a label. Type in the equation that's given, y equals -1/4 x plus 7. We're going to type in y equals mx plus b. And when you do that, it's going to ask you to type in slider or add in sliders, add all. When you do that, since for number 6 we were looking for something that is parallel, if it's parallel to this original, what would our slope be? If it's parallel to this original one, what would that slope be? -1/4, so we're going to type that into M. And then you can either hit play or move it manually on B until it goes through that point. Super fast today. So I can see that these 2 lines are parallel, they're not intersecting, and this line goes through that point. So I would write the equation y equals -1/4 x plus 5. And that would be your answer. While you're practicing, you don't have to show the work, but reminder that you do need to be able to do the work on the quiz, on the test. We're going going to do this one more time so you can see a perpendicular slash one with a little bit more work. We're going to do the same thing, but for number 11. I'm going to change the order pair to 2, 3. Change the equation to, I'm going to write it exactly as it is, 2x plus 10y equals 20. We already had our y equals mx plus b. This is perpendicular. So first we have to count the slope of the original. So you can either count it from this point to this point or look at where this crosses the next grid line. So if we're counting this, I'm going down 1 to the right 5, down 1 to the right 5 again. So our slope here is negative 1/5. What would the perpendicular slope of that be? Took negative 1/5 and I flipped it and made it positive. What would that be?
What number?
11. The slope of this line is negative 1/5. What is the negative reciprocal of that? Say that again. 5 over 1, or just 5. So I can change this to 5. And then move the b until it goes through that point.
Not super soft.
And when b is negative 7, it goes to that point. So my equation would be y equals 5x minus 7. Do you have any questions on how that works in Desmos?
I only got half of it.
Mr. what was number 6?
Y equals negative 1/4 x plus 5. Okay. I want you to do 2 problems. You can use your notes, you can do it by hand, you can use Desmos, you can work with each other. Numbers 5 and 12. Try those 2 problems. Raise your hand when you finish, I'll come check them. When you finish those 2 problems, you could be working on Delta Math. More problems in this packet. Really just those 2 things right now. So finish those 2 and then you can work on Delta Math or more problems in this packet. Raise your